Hello, my name is Chris Januski, and this is my first show on the Phoenix National Network. Welcome. I just want to say thank you to Mr. Philip Reed for inviting me onto this amazing platform to be able to talk. My first show today, well, a little bit about myself. My name is Chris Januski. I'm a property and casualty insurance agent at the Wasiczko Agency. We are located in Yonkers, New York. I've been serving the Yonkers community since 1963. We are licensed in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. We offer all forms of property and casualty insurance. So that's on the personal side. We can do home, auto, umbrella, renters, condo, co-op, special events, motorcycles, RVs. If you own it, need it insured, I can help you out. On the business side, we do a business owner's policy, general liability, property, commercial auto, workers' comp. Again, if you have a business that needs insurance, I'll be able to help you find insurance in those 3 states also. All right, so today is my first show. I want to take the time to talk about something that affected Mamaroneck a couple weeks ago is flood insurance. Not everybody has, a lot of people don't have flood insurance, and there's a lot of people that are hurting right now in the New York, New Jersey area because they didn't have flood insurance. And I want to take the time today to go over what flood insurance is, and what it covers and what it doesn't. All right, so it's a quick PowerPoint presentation. Just bear with me for a moment. All right, so what is flood insurance and who needs it? What you need to know about flood insurance. All right, so what is a flood? This is from FEMA. And the definition of a flood, when I first learned this, really struck me. When I think of a flood, I think of lots of properties being affected, and it's actually can be as little as 2 acres of land, normally dry land, or 2 or more properties, meaning that if it's you and your neighbor, by definition, if there's flood that is coming from overflow of inland tidal waters, rapid accumulation, think of flash flooding, all of that, if it's affecting only 2 properties, by definition, that could be a flood. Right, so flood insurance is a little different than your typical homeowner's insurance. So flood insurance, we'll just start with what it is. It is federal insurance. It's provided by the government. When you see a picture of a flood and you see an entire town devastated by a flood, think of an individual insurance company had to insure all those properties. It could potentially bankrupt them. And the government understood that it wasn't feasible for individual companies to be able to provide flood insurance. So the government stepped in and provided, developed flood insurance. But with that, it's not like a typical homeowner's policy. There's some differences to it. So the maximum that your building can get covered for is $250,000. Now, in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut, that most likely will not cover the cost to replace it, but it is better than having no insurance at all. The maximum personal property or the contents, the things you own, is a maximum of $100,000. And unlike your homeowner's insurance, the replacement cost is not guaranteed. Where on your homeowner's policy, it'll say the dwelling cost, and then that it'll say replacement cost or guaranteed. So in regards to property that's actually covered, when we look at the building or the dwelling, it's very similar to your homeowner's policy. The building, the foundation, your electrical and your plumbing, your HVAC, refrigerator, built-in appliances, any wall-to-wall carpeting, anything that's permanently installed on the floor, blinds, and then detached garage that's up to 10% of the building, but that's not an additional 10%. Again, different than what your typical homeowner's policy is. This 10% is part of that maximum $250,000. So on personal property, it's very similar to a homeowner's. So the things you own, right? Your clothes, your furniture, electronic equipment, portable devices or appliances like a portable window AC or microwave or a dishwasher, rugs, your washer and dryer, the freezer, and then the food in them, and then certain valuables up to $2,500. This is important here. Property not covered by a flood insurance policy. So damage caused by moisture, mildew, or mold that could have been avoided by the property owner, meaning that the flood came through and then you didn't take all the precautions or measures you could have to prevent damage to that property after the floodwaters receded, they could deny claims for those items. Also, things outside, trees and plants are sometimes covered by your homeowner's policy. Your walkway and deck and patio and fences are almost always covered by a homeowner's policy. Your hot tub and pool, none of that is covered by the flood policy. Another thing homeowners covers is if you were to be displaced because of a fire or something where you couldn't live in your home, or your homeowner's policy would cover those costs to live somewhere else temporarily, either renting an apartment or a house or a hotel room, where the flood insurance does not provide any of those, the living expenses. All right, so what FEMA is looking at with flood insurance, typically the lowest level is what's going to be affected by a flood. So this is the 4 scenarios that FEMA has for the lowest elevated level and then basements. So area below the lowest elevated level has a lot of restrictions on what type of property is covered and what's not. So here we've got 4 different scenarios. We've got a house that's raised, there's nothing underneath it. We have, think of a raised ranch or a walkout basement, right? The dirt does not cover all 4 sides. There's at least one side exposed. A crawl space where the house is built above some type of crawl space. And then here's a full basement, dirt on all 4 sides. Right, so the coverage for what's in that lowest level is very, very restrictive when it comes to flood insurance. So let's talk about the building itself. The walls and the foundation are covered. Essential AC is covered. Drywall, if you have a finished basement, the drywall is only covered if it is an actual basement, meaning all 4 walls are enclosed by land. It's a walkout basement, the drywall is not included. Regardless, the fuel tanks and the fuel in them, solar equipment and wells and water tanks are covered. Now, when it comes to personal property, the things you own on that lowest level, this is all that's included. Your washer and dryer, a freezer, not a refrigerator, but a freezer and the food in them, portable and window AC units. That's very restrictive when you look at the personal property. So what's not covered, and this is very important if you're looking at flood insurance and you have anything in that lowest level, paneling and bookcases, any type of floor covering, it's carpet, area rugs, or tile. If it's not a full basement, any drywall, and here's the biggest thing for personal property, almost everything you own is not covered on that lowest level. Your personal property, your clothing, electronic equipment, furniture, kitchen supplies, any of that that's on that lowest level would not be covered by flood insurance. All right, so this is these were shared to me from Mr. Oscar Capel. This is pictures he took of the flood in Mamaroneck and some of the devastation that people are still recovering from a couple weeks later. This is normally dry land. This is the street. So Mr. Capel was able to get some pictures of before. This is from Google Maps, this home. This is what he's cleaning up right now. You can see these people have lost, all of this is trash. It's their personal belongings that after it was damaged by the floodwaters, there's nothing they can do to salvage it. It's being thrown away. That's somebody's record collection, 45s. They don't make those anymore. This is somebody's stuff that was probably in the basement, and it's now gone. So this is a church on Howard Avenue. Mr. Cabell got this picture from Google Maps before, and you can see what's going on after. All the lattice work is gone, and all the debris of everything that they lost, most likely in the basement or even on the first floor. They really had high water levels here. This is the front door of the fire department. It was ripped off the hinges and they temporarily got secured here. Mr. Capel, that's him showing the water line after the waters receded, how high the water was. This is the cleanup that's going on in Mamaroneck right now. This is the debris, the piles of the debris that they're cleaning off the streets, and because of this, the trash cleanup is actually slowed down in the Westchester area because of trying to remove all this debris. Right, so that's a quick presentation of what flood insurance is. Here's my contact information. My name is Chris Januski from the Wasiczko Agency. Here's our website along with phone numbers to reach me at. Right, so real quick, who needs flood insurance? Legally, you only need flood insurance if you have a mortgage and you're in a flood zone. So when you buy a property, the lender will typically let you know if you're in a flood zone and if flood insurance is required. Excuse me. If you own the property and you're in a flood zone, legally you don't need flood insurance. If you live outside the flood zone, legally you don't need flood insurance. But I want to talk about flood zones and flood maps. People look at a flood map and they say, oh, I'm in the 100-year floodplain. Well, what's that mean when you're in a 100-year floodplain? That means that there's a 1% chance that there will be a flood this year. Now that 1%, it doesn't mean that it's going to happen once every 100 years. It just means there's a 1% chance that it will happen. On top of that, there's a chance that it could flood multiple times in that same year. So when you're looking at flood insurance, a lot of the people that are affected most recently in the New York and New Jersey area were not in a floodplain. This is, we had a terrible rain event. We had a matter of about 9 inches in 12 hours. 1 hour had 3 inches of rain, and all that runoff what was the definition of flash flooding. And that's exactly what happened. And all these people are being affected by it now. So that's flood insurance in a nutshell. I'd like to invite Mr. Oscar Capel on right now. He's actually in Mamaroneck right now doing cleanup efforts. He's at some properties that are still being devastated by this. Hello, Oscar. How are you doing, sir?
Good, good. How are you? You stop calling me Mr. Capel. They know me on the show.
All right.
Yeah, so
you're with us
we're
today
here
in Mamaroneck.
Yeah, let me put the camera around and show you. And this is 2 weeks after the flood. Okay, this is more belongings there that are being taken out. This was the stove, the dishwasher, everything else. And I'm gonna take a walk into the property.
I hope I don't lose you, Oscar. It looks like your connection's a little faded. So what Oscar's showing us here is the devastation that, this happened a couple weeks ago, and the news crews, they were there when the waters were high and when they first receded. And
what then we have to do after this is about 500 homes in this area that are in this condition. So that's what a flood will do to everyone's house, possessions, everything they own.
All right, I hope you can see Oscar's camera. You turn it on mute. There's a lot of they're using all the machinery and the equipment there, making a lot of noise, but you can see from the images that he has there.
Yeah, I'm walking out because they are using machinery to get stuff done. Arthur, how you doing?
Doing very well, man. This
is Arthur, one of the volunteers.
How you doing?
And actually, he happens to be an ex-student of my wife, so it's a small world, but we're all in this together,
especially around here.
All right, so that's my live report for you to show why it's important to have flood insurance, because, like you said, we have a 100-year flood, but if we have weather conditions like we've had in the past few years, that 100-year floods turns into every other year flood.
Right.
All right, I'll let you and if you have any other questions for me, let me know. You know where to find me.
I appreciate it, Oscar. Thank you for
have the camera off, and I'll be listening into the rest of the show.
All right. Thanks for attending today, Oscar. Thanks for giving us that view of everything that you're witnessing down there in Mamaroneck. So, in a nutshell, that's what flood insurance is. I appreciate everybody checking out my show today. This is the first time on Phoenix National Network. Again, my name is Chris Januski with the Wasiczko Agency, here for all your property and casualty insurance needs. When the show's over today, we're going to have a QR code pop up. That's going to be a way for you to contact me or download the app for Phoenix National Network. All right. Thank you, everybody, for checking this out. And we are here, the Wasiczko Agency, protecting what matters most to you. Thank you very much.